Hello and welcome to Grocer Pod. My name's Sean Kosednar. Today I'm joined by Adam Zimmerman from Ideal by Design House. Ideal by Design House helps AWG member retailers with digital circulars as well as retail media networks. Before we get to Adam, please remember to subscribe to Grocer Pod. Subscribing means new episodes will be downloaded for you automatically. You can find Grocer Pod on Apple Podcasts, Google Music, Spotify, Stitcher, or any other platform you use. Thanks for joining me today, Adam.
Thanks for having me, Sean. It's an honor to be here.
Tell me what is Design House for anyone that doesn't know?
So we years ago we were a full service agency. We did a lot of digital content creation and media buying, and for years we'd been hearing complaints. We were working with a lot of Ace Hardware independent owners, and they were complaining about their print circular, and that they couldn't modify what corporate had created. And they were like, who reads these things anymore? And so we'd always had this idea bouncing around in the back of our heads about a digital circular and how that could work. One day we had this wonderful idea. This is towards the end of 2018, about how a digital circular would work, how it would be distributed, how we'd measure traffic back to the store. And we built it. We built it within a couple of months, and we launched it at an Ace Hardware show, and it took off. And within about 6 months, we were no longer an ad agency. We were an ad tech company. And that is really all we've done since then. We have grown the platform pretty substantially. But today, to answer the question, what is Design House? We are a company that has created a completely new way to create and distribute digital circulars. And then, of course, that also functions as the underlying foundation for a retail media network that we can roll out at scale.
Yeah, so longtime listeners of Grocer Pod will know that when I first started at AWG, my job was uploading the print circulars to stores' websites. And pretty much from the second day of me doing that, I was like, I think there's got to be a better product here than this. And so I'm glad that you guys are here filling that need. I know Mickey King at Hayes and Food Smart is one of the people using your service, and I really enjoy the things that he's putting out. I think this is a really great product. What benefits are you seeing from AWG member retailers?
Well, you bring a good point about the PDF file. And that's really kind of where this whole thing started. In looking at the way that a digital circular typically looks on a website, that's where customers are interacting with them for the most part. And it's not the worst experience on a desktop or a tablet. It's okay. But this is a format that's meant to be read like a newspaper. It's a big, thing to hold in your hands and use in person. And to shove it down on a tiny little telephone screen, that's where it starts to break down, right? And what has happened over the last decade is that traffic has changed into mobile. Nearly 80% of traffic is on mobile devices today. And so, 8 out of 10 people looking at a digital circular are looking at a PDF file on a tiny little 4-inch screen. And that's really the impetus of the problem from a user experience is that it's difficult to see. I mean, it's just, you got to zoom in and out with your fingers. It's not really an interactive experience. It certainly can't be personalized. It can't have retail media running through it. And so that user experience has broken down because we've taken what is intended to be read like a newspaper and shoved it down to a tiny little phone screen. So the platform we've built is completely different. It's database driven. It's very dynamic. Of course, it fits to any size screen that you have, desktop, mobile, but mobile is really where we focus our energy. It has animated content and video and recipes, and it integrates with e-commerce and digital coupons, and customers can build lists on it. It's a very engaging, interactive experience that is a huge shift away from a traditional PDF file. That's one of the two major differences. I could dive into the second difference as well. The second, I would say, major problem with a traditional digital circular is that it lacks distribution. It is really functioning as a passive marketing platform for the retailer. It sits on the website. Customers, if they want to, they come to the retailer's website and find it. Customers maybe who engage in email or social media or maybe scan a QR code will see these things. But most customers will not engage with them, right? Most customers aren't that engaged with their retailer. And no competitor customer would ever see a digital circular. It's a rare behavior to seek out a digital circular for a retailer that you don't normally shop. And that's not how print worked when it worked really well. Print had a really good distribution system where it found its way into the mailbox of your customers and your competitors' customers. And the public generally understood this was the mechanism to save money at the store. And so it was a normal behavior to kind of pick it out of the mailbox and look through it and build a list for the weekend. And that behavior has changed because we've changed the way as a society that we like to absorb information. And it's really the mobile phone, again, that's going to change that, change the way that we like to absorb information. So we have developed a distribution system specific to the digital circular that solves that second major problem. It is a media buy, specifically a programmatic media buy that specifically targets your customers and your competitors' customers. It drives them to the circular. It then follows them back to the store. And so it measures how many customers saw an ad, went to the circular, showed up at the store. It differentiates between a new customer and a regular customer. And it helps the retailers understand of the new traffic we're driving, where is it coming from? How many visits came from Walmart or Aldi or any other competitors in your area. And so these are the two major shifts that we've created in this industry. The first is changing that user experience, and the second is providing a distribution system that allows traffic to move back to the store.
Yeah, I think diving into that second solution, the distribution, is really going to be interesting to our members because they obviously really liked being able to just send their circular to everybody and it shows up in everybody's mailbox. And that's great. It's also very expensive, but but now we don't do it that way. Like, we're okay with mail coming to our mailbox that we didn't ask for, but we're not okay with emails coming to our email box that we didn't ask for. So what do the retailers have to do to get this programmatic distribution?
So what we do with the retailers, the most of the budget in the system is actually focused on the distribution sides. Just like print, when you increase your budget, you're just increasing the reach that your circular has within that community. Retailers typically think of it as how many households they can hit, right? They're either printing 10,000 or 20,000 copies or whatever it might be, and that's how many households they're going to get to. It's very similar in our world, and the difference is that we're serving impressions. So we're buying impressions that people see when they're looking at YouTube, when they're checking the weather for the weekend, when they're reading the local news, anywhere that they are on their phones. We're focused on buying media. This is media that's branded to store, right? It's the store's ad. It's got an animation of featured items in the circular that week. And it says, hey, tap here to see the full weekly ad. That is what drives traffic. And that is really the main cost of the system. The detail is that behind that ecosystem is a very intelligent distribution network that figures out who it should target. Again, if you compare it to what was done in print is kind of this spray and pray technology. It's just, it targets everyone within a certain zip code or everyone within a certain mail route. And clearly it's not relevant to everyone, right? In our world, it does a good job of finding the people most likely to make it back to the store. They might be people that live a block away. They might be people that live 2 blocks away. You could break that audience down into 2 groups. The first is the regular customers of the retailer that we're talking about. So here's an AWG store. We can see, we follow using geolocation about 8 out of 10 mobile devices. And so we can very easily see who regularly shops that store. It's a very easy thing to see because we blueprint the store, we see those mobile devices, and we watch them move in and out of them. We create this thing called a mobile ID for every individual device. And not only do we know where they shop, we know all kinds of other stuff about them, typical demographic and psychographic information that we can buy from third parties. We use all that information to target those customers. Now, the challenge is with the competitors' customers because we do the same thing with each competitor for that given store. We blueprint those locations and we target those customers with the intention of conquesting them and driving incremental traffic back to the AWG store, of course. And the challenge there is there are far too many customers within a competitor customer set to target all of them, right? So we have to figure out which ones are more likely to make it back and which ones are less likely, which ones are more likely to change their behavior. And this is based on many factors, the most important of which is geolocation. Who is regularly near the AWG store, in their normal life with the other places that they shop and where their kids go to school and where they work? Where is it actually a convenient place for them to shop? This AWG store Some competitors' customers are more likely to shop our store because they happen to be nearby all the time, and some are less likely. And so we find those people. We also learn a lot of things about them from all this third-party data we buy. And again, watching those that make it back through the ecosystem and learning about them helps us to run that through an AI engine that then modifies the audience to find people more likely to make it back to the system. So it's all this technology behind the targeting that really helps to produce positive return on investment to the retailer. And the KPI that we measure that's the most important is cost per visit. We do not charge for visits. We charge for those impressions out there in the real world, but we follow those impressions through the circular back to the store. And then what we report to the retailer is how many visits were driven and what was that cost per visit that week. The goal, of course, is to drive the lowest cost per visit, because the lower the cost per visit, the higher the return on their investment.
Absolutely. And what I like about everything that you said is the retailer doesn't have to do anything. Like in the past, it was a very intensive process for them, doing all the design, getting things mailed out. Like there was a lot going on for them. They kind of just sign up and like, here it goes. And then, and that's all they have to do and I know that the biggest resource for our member retailers is simply their time. Like they don't have enough time to do everything that they need to do to run their store. And so if they can get more people in the building by doing less work, like that's going to be good for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We talk a lot about our goal is not to get rid of the print circular. Our goal is to change the way the circular is distributed. So the methodology behind the circular is very sound. Right? This has been just as solid as it was when the first Sears Roebuck catalog came out. People love to browse through content. People love to save. The circular ecosystem has been the central fulcrum point for retailers for many, many decades. Again, our goal is not to get rid of the circular. It's to just change the way that it's distributed. Instead of it showing up in a mailbox, it's showing up on a mobile phone. And we produce far better return on investment that way.
What have you seen from stores that have ditched their print circular altogether and gone strictly digital? I mean, you said that you don't want to get rid of it, but there are some stores that are putting their full budget into the digital circular. What success stories have you seen there?
That's correct. Years ago, we would talk about how we could produce better return on investment than print, and obviously there was a lot of trepidation about that. It's a scary thing. Right, it's kind of terrifying to a lot of retailers, the idea of getting rid of the keystone of their marketing platform. But again, our goal is not to get rid of it; it's to change the way that it functions. And to use our platform does not mean that you have to remove the print circular platform. The digital circular can run in tandem with print, and for many of our retailers, it does. For most of our retailers, it has completely replaced print. And these days, most retailers, when they come to us, they're asking for us to help them remove their print system. There's a fairly in-depth process that we like to go through. It involves three main steps. The first is we want to ensure that the print system is moved to digital without any loss in sales. The second step is we want the transition for the customer that's currently engaged in print. We want that transition to be smooth, frictionless. We want to do everything we can to allow that transition process to move through without that person getting frustrated. And the third thing is we want to focus on the budget and never incrementally grow their circular budget. And in the end of the cycle, we want to have a net savings in the investment that they put into their circular system. On average, we reduce the investment by about 50% if they transition all the way from print to digital. So we have a fairly in-depth process. It's far more granular than what I just described. But we like to be very careful about those steps. We've never had a retailer move away from print and then back into print. It has been something that retailers have gone through, not our clients, but a lot of that we believe is because the steps were not taken carefully enough to transition mostly the customer. It's really you could classify your customers into two groups: those that read your print circular and those that don't. The transition is focused on those that read, right? Those that don't read might see a QR code in the print circular on their way to the recycle bin, and we can kind of grab them and pull them in then. But our real focus in the transitional process is those that are engaged with print today to make sure that they can move through that transition without friction.
How long does that transition take?
It's a great question. My recommendation is 6 months. It can be It can be narrowed down to 3 to 4 months on the short side, and it certainly could be as long as the retailer might want it to. I think the perfect amount of time is about 6 months. There are kind of 3 steps in this process. The first step is to launch the digital circular system, and then to put a QR code in the print circular to say, hey, look what we got. We're not changing print, but look what we got. We got this cool new digital thing. It's got animation and video and recipe, and it's wonderful. It's just an introduction. The second step is after that first step runs for a couple of months, we reduce the size of the print circular intentionally. So we reduce it down typically to like a 2-pager. And this is done very specifically for a couple of reasons, because at the same time, we increase the area that we communicate about digital on that front page of print. It gets much bigger, and the communication is a little different. It says, hey, yes, there's smaller print than there used to be, but there's all of that content in digital. So we're not cheaping out on you over here, customer. We're giving you a different experience, and we're putting our investment over here. And it helps to rationalize in the customer's eyes why the retailer is making this decision, because their gut reaction is, oh, you're cheaping out on me. But really, you're giving them far more benefit. You're just moving kind of where you're putting it. That runs for a couple of months. And the third step is that QR code and area on the front page of the circular is even bigger now. And you say, hey, in a month from now, we're dropping print altogether. The last piece is to communicate how are they going to find you without print, right? Because there's not going to be a QR code coming to your mailbox every week. So how am I going to get to digital on my own? And you tell them, hey, go to our website and click on weekly ad, download our app, sign up for email, sign up for text, follow us on Facebook. All of the ways that a retailer publishes that content, we want the customer to be able to, whatever way feels best for them, kind of make sure that they fit that into their weekly routine.
And that makes so much sense to me, because the retailer is more than likely already doing all of those things. They're already putting their print circular on Facebook. They're already sending it in an email or having it on their app or website or whatever. Correct. And so really all it is adding to their print circular, hey, go find this stuff that's other place. That's brilliant. It makes total sense to me. So just before we wrap up, Adam, give me one last pitch to any of our member retailers who may be on the fence about this on why digital circulars might be something for them.
The last pitch I will say is to kind of throw a little bit of, foreshadowing to what we're working on with AWG at a bigger scale. We are working with AWG to build a retail media network that will get CPGs to invest in the system I've just described. And so imagine Mondelez wants to target your customers, and they want to create awareness around the 4th of July Oreos that they're coming out with here in a week or so. Well, this is a perfect mechanism to do it, right? What would they do? They do the same thing the retailer does. They would buy media around that store, of course, co-branded with the retailer. It'd be an ad just like any other ad that retailer has on their own. That would drive traffic to in this case, Oreo content within that retailer's circular. And we would, again, follow that traffic all the way back to the store. So in that case, Mondelez is driving incremental traffic to the store, growing frequency and basket size, and the retailer is not paying for it, right? This is all paid for by Mondelez. Imagine a dozen campaigns running at the same time, and imagine them running every week all year long. That's kind of what we're working on with AWG, to create an ecosystem that creates constant movement and investment from CPG, driving incremental traffic to the stores through this digital circuit that I've just described. And the benefit, obviously, for the retailer there is incremental spend in the distribution system without it having to come out of their pocket. AWG is using the collective size of the organization to leverage CPG and drive those investments down home. So that's we'll talk about. I'm sure we'll talk about this another time here, Sean. Next time we get together, all the cool stuff we're doing on the retail media side. But it's the last piece of the puzzle that I'd throw in here as far as a benefit to the retailer.
Yeah, absolutely. The retail media network is a conversation unto itself, for sure. And we'll definitely have you back for that conversation, Adam. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Sean. Appreciate it.
And thank you all for listening. Please remember to like and subscribe to Grocer Pod. That way you can stay up to date on all the latest things going on around AWG. And until next week, this has been Sean Kosednar for Grocer Pod.